Hello, rugby fans. I'm Joe Harrington, content manager at FloRugby. With me, as always, our man in the UK, Philip Bindon. We're here to talk more rugby. We're winding down. We've got the last big week of international rugby. Philip, I'm going to go dive in right from the start here. It's Ireland. It's South Africa. It's the Philip Bindon Bowl.
Yeah, my two favorite teams, Joe. It's always a difficult week for me, I have to say. I love Irish rugby. I love the Springboks. I'm an Irish fan first and foremost. I have to be clear on that. You can't get away from where you're born and where your heritage is. But gosh, I have so much respect for Springbok rugby, especially spending so much time growing up in Cape Town. But you know what? It's actually quite a credit to the Springboks that for me, this might be the biggest game of the year. And it's every match that's involved the Springboks so far has been the biggest game of the year, I think, is what we've been
It
saying. So,
seems like it changes every week on what we think the biggest
yeah,
game of the year is going to be.
yeah.
But here's my question, and on the outset, right, it seems like an easy answer, but I don't know. I can make a case for the other way. Who needs this match more?
Yeah, no, it goes both ways. I think when you look at the Springboks, right, the one team that has consistently beaten them is Ireland, and it's four out of the last five, and Rassie hasn't won in Dublin, so that's really the last thing for him to check off. Now, they've won two Rugby World Cups and three Rugby Championships in that time, but Rassie wants to tick everything off. So there's that element for South Africa. They really want this. For Ireland, that was the best performance Ireland have put in since probably defeating France in Marseille in the Six Nations in 2024, or perhaps even that match in Durban where they hung on to beat the Bucks with two drop goals. So it's actually come at a perfect time, this match. And again, it kind of reiterates my frustration with Ireland playing New Zealand first up, for example. I think this iteration of Ireland play a much better game against the All Blacks than they did in Chicago. So perfect timing coming up, and I think both sides really need this. Both sides really need this, just for different reasons. But they're both secured in the top band, so in terms of rankings, it doesn't really matter. But it's just a big brag right for the two teams.
Well, I think for South Africa, like you beat Ireland, you've pretty much you've beaten every good rugby
Mm-hmm.
team this year. I mean, they didn't play England, obviously, but um, I think that's the only one not on their list. But I think you could definitely say, like right now, given the youth that some of the youth that the Springboks have played, I mean they're the overwhelming favorites in the World Cup in 2027 right now. They would have to have a lot of stuff go wrong for them to make me think otherwise.
Yeah.
I think you go out and you beat Ireland this year. I think that seals it for me.
Yeah, I mean, I saw some pundits from I think they might have been English pundits, not to throw anyone under the bus, saying, "Oh, are the Springboks peaking at the wrong time?" No, they're not. The Springboks always peak at the Rugby World Cup. They're just putting new players in. You look at the only thing I would say is that you are going to lose some generational players, or they'll be really in the senior years by the time they get to the next Rugby World Cup. You're thinking you're Eben Etzebeth, you think you see Khaleesi's, but then you look at who's coming up behind them. Ruan Nortje is a heck of a player in the second row. The back row is always going to be very strong for South Africa. I mean, you look at the names that aren't even in the Springbok squad, where there's young Cameron Hanekom, who's out injured at the moment, and Vincent Chituka is a brilliant player. So, the South Africa are the overwhelming favourites for me for the next Rugby World Cup. And I even as soon as 2 weeks ago, Joe, we were saying I think France might be the biggest challenge for them. I don't think it will be anymore. I really think it'll be England at the next Rugby World Cup, and there's a big gap in my mind between South Africa and England still. And I think there's a big gap between South Africa and everyone. I think I put a message in our work chat a while ago of the sort of the tiers of where I see it. It's South Africa by themselves. You go down a rung, I would say England and what I've seen in Ireland recently, probably England, Ireland, New Zealand, France come to a second group, and Argentina, and then you drop down again another level. So very, very exciting times. But right now, 2 years out, the Springboks are odds-on favourites again. You can't make an argument otherwise.
Well, I think it's interesting because you can say the Springboks have by far been the team of the year in international rugby play. I mean, yes, their loss was like shocking when they lost to Australia, but outside that, I mean, they split the series in New Zealand with the All Blacks. They beat France in Paris, which is probably the best win any team has had, uh, like this year. Like England beat the All Blacks in London, right? I
Mm.
mean, if they didn't beat them, they didn't play them in New Zealand. I don't know if that's any different. But then I look at England, and they any other year they might have been the team of the year in international rugby play for how they finished the Six Nations, and then they come out and what they did in the summer. I still think that was pretty surprising that they swept Argentina. But now what happened this past weekend where they just dominated that second half against the All Blacks. I mean, they went down 12-0, and I think I put it in our Slack. I was like, "Oh, this is going to get ugly. This is surprising." And then, of course, just they just reel off all those points. I agree with you. I think England is going to be number two at some point pretty soon.
Yeah, I think so. And that loss to South Africa to Australia feels so long ago, right? And I think Rassi kind of came out after the match, and there's a thing in South Africa called Vinchat. I hope I'm pronouncing that, where you're a little bit arrogant. And I think South Africa got out to such a big lead that it is very easy to switch off. And it was, first game of the season really for them. So, or other than they had the Italy and Georgia test, but it was the first real big test for them. And since then they've just gone on a tear. And you look at that Eden Park match, and there's a couple of things that go their way and that they win there too. So yeah, it's been a heck of a year. Just one thing on this, Joe, and I'm not going to delve into too much because I released a video over the weekend about this. World Rugby have got quite a bit of work to do in the match official department at the moment, and historically I've always tried to steer away from commenting on this because every sport has issues with match officials. But in back-to-back weeks, we've had the best team in the world get two red cards that really aren't red cards. And is that the advert we want for the game? And I think you saw it across the board. I think we've kind of touched on it. It started in Chicago with that Ireland-New Zealand game to the Tyke Byrne red card, and it's just continued through November. And I think I'm hoping that when it comes to Dublin, where we're going to have two teams kind of hitting form, that we don't have something like that. And I just felt it was worth saying. I think there's quite a lot of work to be done there. When you've got your best team in the world and you're trying to showcase the sport to new eyes, red carding when they shouldn't be red cards are things that need to be looked at. And it is slowing the game down a lot. The television match officials across the board are continually getting into it. And I know we'll get to Argentina, Scotland. I've quite a bit on that later too, where they got heavily penalised, and you could see it in that first half. So yeah, that's just one thing, and that's another thing where I think Rassi, for all his faults and the way he did it earlier during the Lions tour was maybe not the right way of calling out the refs. But I'm hoping there will be a bit more accountability on that side of things. Just while we're on that on that topic, I thought I'd get that out there early.
Yeah, well, you know, for this match against the Springboks, win or lose, I think Ireland has a lot to prove. I think if they win this match, then all the angst that we've felt about Ireland rugby the last couple months, I think it's gone. They just beat the Springboks, even if it's in Dublin. But also, I messaged you this over the weekend, and with England, who I think is the number two team in the world, and then you've got Ireland, who really looked great this past weekend. Uh, Scotland did not look great this past weekend. Italy sure did against the Springboks. They pushed them. Wales got a new coach. France is France. So my question here, and we can touch on Scotland, Argentina in this answer here,
Yeah.
but like, is it too early to be super excited about the Six Nations?
Joe, as soon as the final whistle blows on the Six Nations, I'm already excited for the next one. So, yeah, no, for me, definitely not. I think it's going to be a really wide open. From an Irish perspective, it's traditionally our hardest one because we've got France and England away. If I'm being honest, I think England is now the tougher assignment than France away. I've been pretty underwhelmed by France this November. That Fiji match could have gone either way. And I think there's quite a few cracks appearing there. So I think it's certainly wide open. If I was looking at it from now, I would say England first, France second, Ireland third, probably. But I would Ireland beat France in Paris? I certainly think they could. So yeah, really tight. Scotland, for me, I think it proved again that there's just a soft underbelly there, and they can go missing in games for far too long. That to be considered a top tier team, I just don't believe they are. They've got all the flash, they've got all the talent, and but they just never put it together when it matters. And the Argentina match, Argentina, when Santi Carreras came on and things started clicking, it was phenomenal. That first half, I think there was a point, and I could be wrong, but Argentina were down to 11 players at some point with injuries and match officials blowing them off the park, and that's another thing I'd love to see World Rugby potentially consider is because Argentina gave away a penalty try from memory where Juan Cruz Malia went for an intercept that he slapped down. I think a penalty try is enough of a sort of a punishment. They don't need to give a yellow card in that instance. I think that would be one thing I'd like to see because Scotland got into a huge 21-0 lead, but I don't think it really reflected the match. And then Argentina just showed how good they are. You talk about the second best team in the world. I think it's between England and Argentina at the moment. I think it's South Africa and England and Argentina. Yeah, I really think they're that good under Felipe Contepomi. And they're a side who always do well at World Cups. So I
Well,
wouldn't write them off either.
we just talked about how weird of a season it's been for Argentina in the past, right? I mean, like I said, I thought their losses to England were pretty surprising. You weren't all that surprised with it, mainly because England was missing so many. They were missing their lions, right? And then I think Argentina that beat the All Blacks. They also lost to them. Um, I just thought it's been a weird season for them, but to dominate Scotland, who we've talked about that game against the United States that started a lot, and they were right there with the All Blacks. I thought that they were having a fairly good Autumn Nations series, but that just went to the wayside. I have lots of panic on Scotland as someone that really likes watching Scotland rugby. Um, but yeah, this is an Argentina story to me. It's weird because I thought they were a little disappointing, and now they're finishing really, really strong. I agree with you. I think they're right up there. Um, and you know what? They play. Argentina plays England. We're going to see that match
Mm.
this weekend. So I mean, for the third time, but we're going to see the A teams for both teams play each other. So I'm really excited about that match. For Scotland, my question to you, Philip, is Finn Russell, Blair Kinghorn. Those guys aren't getting any younger. Duhan didn't even start uh, this week. Um, will Scotland is Scotland staring down another rebuild like Wales is going through, or can they turn this around? What's their youth young players coming up? Like, what does that look like? And should we be worried about Scotland rugby long
No,
term?
I actually, when I look more into it, I don't think Scotland have the same issues as Wales because I think they have a good crop of younger players coming through, albeit they're not at the level of the other big tier one nations. I think there's plenty of young guys. It's just how they make that work and get their academies rolling because ultimately, they've only got two professional teams. And you talk about Argentina. Argentina is the only tier one team without a professional club teams really competing in top leagues, and that just shows how impressive it can be when you allow your players to go all over the world. Finn Russell is firmly at the peak of his powers, as you said, as is Blair Kinghorn. But for me, Kinghorn's one of my favourite players in the world. I just think he's not been informed this November. And I think for Finn, it must be a very frustrating experience playing with Scotland because I don't think he's necessarily the reason they go missing. I think a lot of the guys around him do. On the topic of Duhan, I think Duhan is, and I said this in our group chat before. Duhan's not really suited to the style of kick contestable rugby which we're in at the moment. He's more of a really good strike runner, but he's always been pretty poor defensively and in the air. I'd love to see an opportunity for Duhan to shift into the centres. Either 12 or 13. I actually probably ideally 12 because I don't know defensively how he would go at 13. But yeah, I think there's a future for him there. On Scotland, and Scottish fans can obviously speak to this a lot more. I do wonder whether a change is kind of needed in that coaching structure. And it's something I feel with Ireland too, albeit Andy Farrell's a world class coach. So I wouldn't want to be getting rid of Andy Farrell. I'd just like to see some new faces come in there and give some new ideas. Scotland, I actually do think Gregor Townsend, it's time to move on because he's been there so long, and at every big test, Scotland has failed. There's not been a point Scotland has passed a big test. They beat England when England was in a down period, and that was great for them. But you can't celebrate Calcutta Cup wins exclusively. This Scottish team, in my opinion, as just pure talent, should have been a lot better than two World Cup pool exits and never winning a Six Nations, or not even were they even in the top half? I mean, it's been a really disappointing return. But on the positive side of things, again with Argentina, I know that England match is going to be a heck of a clash too. So we've kind of saved the best for last, really, with South Africa, Ireland, and England, Argentina. Those are going to be great clashes. So. And I've got some sort of thoughts on the tactical side of things with both of those teams and kind of everybody really. I know we're in this really kick heavy point, which is part of it. You need to win the air since they got rid of the sort of marshalling of the kicker. But actually, funny enough, if I'm looking at Ireland this weekend, I'd rather them play a bit of a multi-phase game, because when Italy were challenging South Africa, I know we'll get onto this match a little bit more. When Italy were challenging South Africa, it was when they were keeping ball in hand and going into the teeth of that blitz defense and kind of mixing kicks in rather than focusing on it solely. And I think that's kind of relevant for Argentina too. I think they're a better team with ball in hand than they are necessarily kicking. So if they were going to take on England, that's how I would go about it. I'd mix in kicks, but I wouldn't necessarily just go in the aerial game, because England are so good in that at the moment.
So if Scotland were to make a coaching change, how quickly do they call the Glasgow Warriors and see if Franco Smith would take on? Because that's somebody that has some international coaching experience with
Mm.
Italy, and the job that he's done with the Warriors has been unbelievable. I think he's one of the best club coaches in the world right now.
Yeah, I think Franco's the obvious option there. I think he would be phenomenal with this Scotland team. I don't think he would do it, but Ronan O'Gara would be another option. Actually, I'm confident he wouldn't do it. Franco
We're
Smith,
kind
I
of
think
we're kind of on the same page that we think Ronan's waiting for the job.
I think Rog wants the Ireland job. If I'm being honest, I think he would certainly take the France job too. He's been there so long, and any of those top tier, and he was very keen on the Australia job. So there's a few options knocking about. I know Stuart Lancaster was in the running for the Wallabies job, but Franco Smith is the obvious option. He knows the players, he knows the challenges that are facing him. He's turned. Glasgow have always been a good club, but Glasgow are an exceptional club now. So I think Franco would be the option, and he's clearly hungry for it. There was a bit of wrangling going on about the Welsh job with his name coming up. I wonder if this is part of the plan that Franco takes over Scotland, and that's why he didn't
Well,
leave.
he's only lost two matches at home in the last 2 years. I mean, it's pretty
Yeah,
unbelievable how
yeah, he's
much
a
they've
brilliant coach.
made. The Warriors have just owned at home. I don't think there's a better club rugby on their home side than anyone right
Yeah,
now
I
in the
know in
Vincent
the
Warriors.
URC probably just Leinster, right? That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and then of course, like a thing that also makes this Six Nations so much fun is like, yeah, Italy doesn't has not won some of these big matches, but man, did they look good against the Springboks? I was surprised by that match and how close it was. And uh, I mean that's what makes the Six Nations so deep. I mean, even Wales is such a wild card. We don't know how they're going to look
Mm.
when we get to February.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I guess on the topic of Italy first, and then I'll get to Wales. Italy didn't believe they could beat the Springboks like Scotland didn't believe they could beat the All Blacks in a way. Italy kept taking 3 pointers when they were 2 players up, and they were really pressing the Springboks. I really think if they just gone with some quick taps, some scrums, and gone for lineouts, they had as much chance of sort of capitalizing. You don't beat this Springbok team by kicking penalties. You just simply don't. And when you've got your sort of foot on the throat, you got to go for it. And I really felt Italy let themselves down in that department. And listen, they deserve the plaudits for pushing the Springboks, but in the end, the Bucks still. When you look at the final score, it wasn't close, right? So, I think the big difference was South Africa won every championship minute. So I can think off the top of my head, the 40th minute, the Springboks scored a try right on the stroke of half time. In the 48th minute, Italy almost scored a try and South Africa denied them. Those were the two big moments. From there, the Boks kicked on. Every time the Boks got an opportunity, they struck. Italy did not do the same. And I think it was they just really didn't back themselves. And South Africa are a brilliant defence. But when you've got 2 players up, you need to find space. But on the whole, I don't want to take away because I do think Italy are getting much better. Gonzalo Quisada is a world class coach, very special coach. And then on the topic of Wales, look, the Wales are, I would say, an immature team at the moment. You look at them and you go, God, you guys are playing some really good stuff at times, but then they just switch off and they just do the completely inexplicable things. But for them, going 90 meters and beating Japan's a big result, right? In a way, it's disappointing to say that as a long-term rugby fan because Wales are an all-time great rugby nation who punch above their weight and always have, and they will get back to that. But that was a big confidence boost for Steve Tandy's side to get the win. And again, they played some good stuff, but it's just those moments of like lapses of concentration, especially on the edges of the defense. The wingers keep jamming in. So what that means is they're watching the ball, watching the ball, watching the ball. They're narrowing up, and then there's space on the outside. And they got cut open by Argentina, which you expect, but to be cut open by Japan who played very well. They've impressed me over the last 2 weeks, but they shouldn't be getting cut open. So, yeah, I think if I'm looking at the Six Nations, that there's a clear top three in Ireland, England, and France. Then there's Scotland, and I would say Italy aren't a million miles behind them, and then Wales are obviously still unfortunately rooted to the bottom.
All right. Well, this is a good segue. All right. I'm going to call this. We'll call it a segment. I'll call this segment elevator pitch. So in about a minute, however long an elevator ride is, uh, yeah, it's about a minute up here
Yeah.
in on the 15th floor of the Flow offices. So Georgia versus Japan is this weekend. So the elevator pitch is, why is this the sneaky best, most important match of the weekend?
Okay, I'm gonna lie through my teeth for you here, Joe, because biggest, best match is taking place in Dublin and London. But on Georgia and Japan, it's a crucial match for two sides who are, outsiders in the Rugby World Cup, but that will be in the last 16, in my opinion. So they'll be knockout teams when you look at it on paper. They play two vastly different styles. You could not get two teams who are different. So it's a contrasting battle, which will be really interesting. I think Japan, as I said, have been they've impressed me against Ireland and Wales in certain bursts. Obviously, against South Africa, they got smoked, which is what you'd expect Georgia to try and do to them. Obviously, not anywhere near as effectively. They'll try and take them on physically and maul them. But actually, I thought Japan technically are very good in all the set pieces. They just lack that bit of bulk, which they have some players becoming eligible soon, so that'll change. But Georgia, conversely, it's very hard to get a read on where they are given the quality of opponents they've had this year. The US played them really close, and that was a great result with Scott Lawrence's team. And Canada pushed them at times too. So tricky enough to know where Georgia are. I think Georgia deserved a lot more respect and a lot more opportunities, and they really should have been allowed to play one of the big Southern Hemisphere teams somewhere along the line, and possibly played against Italy or Wales would have been a good option too. Um, it's a very intriguing match if you want to watch contrasting styles, and it proves that rugby is a sport for everyone of all sort of shapes and sizes. There's multiple ways to skin a cat, right? And these two teams are the full example of that.
That's longer than an elevator ride, but I love it.
Sorry, I'm
Here's
going
my
up and
here's my
down,
thing.
Joe. Sorry, going up and down. Was that not? Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, you went up and down. So here's my take on this match, Philip. Like, the Nation Series just came out.
Mm.
Japan is one of those countries that's going to be in it. They
Mm-hmm.
just got elevated. To me, it's almost like when, uh, a team goes from the American Conference in college sports to like the Big 12. So,
Sure.
like, I grew up in Cincinnati. University of Cincinnati was always in the second tier. And then a few years ago, they got elevated to the Big 12, right? Like, so now they're in it. They're in the game. Japan is now in a tournament where they're going to be playing all these great teams, all the Six Nations. So
Mm.
for them, I think they need to go to Georgia and have the mindset that they're going to win. Just like if Italy went to play Georgia, like Italy knows they're going to win, and we all know that they're going to win. I don't know if Japan's there yet, but I think there's some pressure for Japan to really look good in this match. And on the flip side, if I'm Georgia, I'm mad that I'm not in the Nation Series. I'm
Mm.
I'm mad that we have been probably one of the best teams outside the top 10 for a year now, and we're not getting that opportunity, but Japan is. So I think that is where I'm coming from this match. I think that there's going to be a lot to prove on both sides. And also, like, you know, this match is going to go a long way to what we see in the Rugby World Cup. I mean, yeah, you're right. I think these two teams do make the knockout stages, and how will they play against one another is one thing. Um, it's how they're going to play against these bigger teams, and I think that helps Japan. Uh, Japan gets a lot of help with that playing in the Nation Series. That they're going to see a lot of really good rugby, and Georgia's not. And I think if I'm Georgia, I'm mad that I'm not getting those opportunities. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, Joe, you've hit the nail on the head there. I think it's absolutely criminal the way Georgian rugby have been treated. The government have invested heavily in the sport. They have the fan base there. They would sell out stadiums, and I don't doubt it for a second that they could. Sporting wise, Japan didn't deserve to be in this competition. Georgia does, but money talks, right? Japan have hosted a Rugby World Cup, which was highly successful, by all accounts, one of the best tournaments of all time. Japan got to a really high level where they made the quarterfinal stages, and then there was a misstep where they dropped off massively after that. After 2019, and that was really disappointing. That's when the investment should have carried on. And I really feel for Georgia. I mean, if you're looking at sporting reasons only, they deserve to be in this competition coming up. If they're not getting into the Six Nations, there's a real misstep not putting them in there. And I love the rugby, the sport of rugby more than most people, and I really want to see it keep growing. But until we open up our borders to the likes of Georgia, Portugal, Spain consistently, the game's just not going to grow at any rate. And even we talk about the Eagles, and the Eagles are a few steps off. This competition, could you have done a tier two of it, where you could have had this, Georgia, USA, Canada, the Pacific Islands? So you kind of get the PNC competition and the Rugby Europe. Why couldn't we have mixed and matched that as a tier two, and then have a promotion relegation? Whoever finishes last in the Nations Championship goes down, and whoever wins the others goes up. I mean, I know I love Wales, and we keep talking about Wales. But Wales, if you're talking on performance, Wales aren't going to win a match in this competition. What's the difference there? I think from a sporting perspective, it's been a bit of a farce. But I think the competition will be really exciting on what it is. I just really do feel for Georgia, I have to say.
Yeah, I think that this is going to be an amazing competition. I can't
Mm.
wait for it to start. And this is also supposed to be like, way to go, Japan, for getting on this level. I just think that if I'm Georgia, I'm mad that I'm not there with them.
Yeah,
And that's where I come back to this match. This match is also streaming on FloRugby in the
yeah.
United States, 7 a.m. Eastern. And I think it's going to be an absolutely great match. Wake up, drink some coffee, get in there, and watch that match. I'm not drinking coffee, and I will be up watching it. So,
It's going to be
um,
tight too. It's going to be really close. It's going to be very exciting. It's going to be a very exciting match.
all right. So we're going to pivot a little bit away from international rugby because if you've been on FloRugby, you know that I've been writing quite a bit about the Investec Champions Cup. Now, for me, this is like my favorite thing that I cover here at Flow. I think that it's in the past, it's always been that this is our first time that we really get to watch these uh, European clubs in England play. And the England Prim games, they used to not be on Flow, and now they are. But it's still really exciting to me because now I've watched these Prim teams more. So like I'm even more invested in teams like the Bristol Bears and Northampton Saints. So I finished my columns. They haven't all posted yet. We do a countdown, but I have finished writing all my pitches for why each team can win the Investec Champions Cup. I have landed on my personal favorite of who I think is actually going to win it. Am I right, Philip, to say that? Well, I'll put it this way: am I right to be on the DHL Stormers bandwagon?
Oh, I think you are the only person I know on that, and I think it's a very cool bandwagon to be on. I mean, you look at if the Stormers get a home run in the knockouts, it's very hard to see that many teams going down there and beating them in Cape Town. I mean, yeah, Joe, you could be onto something there really interesting. It's always until it happens, it's very hard to look away from Toulouse, Bordeaux, Leinster, and Northampton, the traditional sort of powers in this competition. I think this year's going to be it's going to be so good because Saracens are getting back up to their form. You look in the top 14, Bayonne, Po, all these clubs are doing really well. But the DHL Stormers are a sneaky pick, and I like it. I think the big thing for the Stormers is they have to win both their home games, which they didn't do last year. They lost to Toulon in Quebec, formerly Port Elizabeth. And what they really should do is, if they win both of those and pick one away win, they're right in that conversation. I think if the Stormers get a home game and someone has to go to Cape Town, that is not where you want to be going, especially going from a European winter down to the South African summer. And you have the
Yeah,
like of Stasha Feinberg, Gomazulu, Damian Willemsen running at you.
well,
Good luck.
that was my argument. It's like we've talked about how much these South African
Mm.
clubs have not taken the European season more seriously, but the Stormers coach he addressed it So if one team is going to take it seriously from South Africa, it's going to be the Stormers. And I agree. I think every team from South Africa in the Champions Cup has an advantage in that these players have to come down to South Africa. And I think now that they're so used to traveling to Europe because of the URC, I don't think it's as painful for these teams to go to Europe to play. And I think that they should use the schedule more as an advantage. Also, I even addressed it in my column too. It's like the weather change is I think pretty significant for
Mm.
them. At the end of the day, though, it like I call like where the games are played and the weather. That's almost like gimmicky reasons for why they should win. At the end of the day, I have been hearing you talk about Sasha nonstop. I think he's going to be in our top 10. He was 40 on our players list. I think he could draw. I think he could climb 35 spots and be in our top 5 next year. He's the most impressive young player in the world to me, and that's saying a lot because I have such high regard for Henry Pollock. But Sasha is so great, and now you combine him with Damian Williamson. Like I think that is a team that can score on anyone. They have a
Mm.
lot of Springboks. I think that they have looked fantastic so far. We talked about at the start of the URC season about their match against Leinster, and yeah, it was round one, and Leinster didn't have its players, but Leinster lost like 35-0 in that
Mm.
match, and the Stormers didn't have a lot of their Springboks in that match. I don't think they had any.
Yeah, but yeah.
So I am on the Stormers bandwagon when I look at this, and it's so easy to just sit here and go, "Oh yeah, Toulouse is going to win the Champions Cup." Well, of course, everyone thinks Toulouse is going to win the Champions Cup. They've won like what? They've won 6 or 7, and
Yeah.
they've got the best player in the world when healthy, probably, in Antoine Dupont. We can like, that with Artie
Sasha is
Sevilla,
right
but like,
there.
I'm
Sasha's
just
right there.
it's
Yeah.
so easy to say Toulouse and Leinster, but man, I'm on the Stormers. I think they're going to use that trip to South Africa to their advantage this year. I think they're going to take the European matches seriously, and this is I think Sasha's the best player in the world right now. If I had to
Mm.
pick it, like if you, I was thinking this when I was writing about the Sharks in it, and like if you had to say pick a player that you want to invest in for the next 5 years. Or you can pick a player that you can invest in for just this one season. Sasha is the one player I say you could pick for both.
Mm.
And like the guy that I would pick like number one if I just needed to win one game this year and be the leader of my team, it's probably Evan Esbeth of the
Mm.
Sharks because I think he just does everything great. I think he's a great leader. That's who I'm picking for like the one game now. Sasha's who I'm picking for the next 5 years. But the thing is, like, I could pick Sasha to win my game tomorrow too, like
Mm.
over Eben Esbeth. And I don't know how good that guy is going to wind up being. But that's my pick. That's why I'm high on the Stormers. I know that it takes 15 guys to win, but if you've got that guy as your leader and as your on your team, you're going to win a lot of games.
Yeah, he's. I think. Yeah, I think people kind of got sick sick of me saying it. I got killed for rating him so high in the last top 100. He's Sasha is the greatest prospect we have seen since Daniel Carter of the All Blacks, and bar none. And he has the potential to get past Carter. He's that good. I mean, Antoine Dupont has been the best player of the last 5 years, and rightly so. I think Peter Steph Toy has a real argument for that too. Cheslin Colby's been very good. But Dupont has been the best player. But Sasha's got the potential by the time it's all said and done to be the greatest of all time. Henry Pollock's a brilliant young player too, but they aren't even in the same, like, it's not even the same ballpark for me at the moment. I think Pollock's phenomenal, but Sasha's just. If you're picking a World 15, you're putting Sasha in the World 15 at the moment, as your 10, and you're not even thinking about it.
If I couldn't jump on the DHL Stormers bandwagon, I'm going to tell you, I'm not even jumping on Leinster Toulouse. I'm jumping on the Saracens. I mean, they've got young players and
Yeah.
they've got two English captains on there. I mean, you got a guy scoring 5 tries in a game who's like 19, and you got Owen Farrell and Morrow. I mean, that team's really impressive. But
Hmm.
I'm all about some new blood. We've had a lot of the same teams, although last
Mm,
year we had two different teams in the final. I understand that, but
yeah.
also like Bordeaux had made the top 14 final, right? Northampton had won the Prim the Prim title. Um, getting the Stormers in there after they had kind of a down year last season. I mean, they turned it around at the end of the season, and I thought maybe they were going to make the final.
Mm,
And I think Saracens are really good. And of course, that's a team that uh, they're like the Yankees. A lot of people probably hate them because of what they do with the salary cap, and they got in trouble
yeah.
for that. But those
Yeah.
are the two teams I'm most high on doing this expectation. And the last thing I'll say about this project that I started is I love how many like really fancy like prefix menu restaurants there are in French stadiums. It is such a great stereotypical French thing to have are these like classic restaurants in there, like the stadium that is named after the Michelin Tire Company
Yeah.
having a restaurant in there is so fitting. I love it. But yeah, Stormers, Saracens, those are the two teams I really like after really breaking it down. And yes, Leinster and Toulouse are probably going to make the final four. They're really good. I'm not saying they're not going to win it, but if you're looking at two teams I think that are going to be dark horses to jump on a bandwagon, I think the Stormers and Saracens are right there.
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad I couldn't agree with you more. I think the Stormers are a real wild card. I think it all comes down to how they pick up points on the road for the Stormers because as soon as they get a home advantage, it's going to be really tough for everybody going down there. I think not. I don't think Munster can win it, but I think Munster can get to a semi-final. I think there will be teams that can get there. La Rochelle have dropped off a lot, so I'm not expecting much from them this year. You've obviously, like we said, Toulouse, Bordeaux, Begla, Northampton, Leinster. Like you said, Sarries will be a real competitor this year. The only thing that spooks me about Saracens is what Northampton did to them the last in in that final prem round. Um, I think Bayonne are a real shot at like a deep run. And like we always say, the Sharks, but until they do it, I'm not going to buy into them again. The Bulls are the same. Until they both do it, it's you can't
So
buy
my
into them.
analogy with the Sharks was um so for a long time the Los Angeles Dodgers were just this team loaded with stars and they could just not win it all. And then all of a sudden they add like one player who's arguably the greatest baseball player to ever live. And now they've won two in a row. So what I'm saying is sometimes a team that is just known for not winning the big games can turn it around in one season. If the Sharks can do that this year, I mean, all the disappointments they've had the last few years, it doesn't matter because they finally won it. This is the year they got to win it though, because we talked about this with South Africa. It's Eben's not getting any younger, Sia's not getting any younger, Ox isn't getting any younger. But like this is like their primes. They're probably still in their primes of the career, but they're exiting late stages of their career. I'm not trying to say that they're all going to retire soon, but like now is the time to win it, and they've got so much talent. I mean the fact that I didn't pick the Sharks as my bandwagon team, and they've got you and I's favorite player in Oxnosh on the roster.
Yeah.
I mean, I even put like every game that Oxnard is in, Philip and I have a side conversation about how we're going to put Ox as the number one player in the world. That's how
Yeah.
much we love that bowling ball. Okay, but yeah,
Props deserve so much more love. If you were talking about the most destructive player who can destroy a game, Oxnard is the man because you can't win matches without scrums. If you put Ox in there, you know you're going to win the scrum. No matter there is no team in World Rugby who stops Ox. There's just nobody. It's
salads
terrifying.
don't win scrums. I got that
Yeah,
sweater.
exactly right. I don't know how he has not been nominated for World Player of the Year at some point, or like won it. Yeah. Anyway, that's a discussion for another day. Actually, one little insight. Actually, I interviewed Winnie Antonio, the great French and La Rochelle prop. Prop one of the biggest men in World Rugby, and I said to him, "What makes Ox so like incredible? Is it his short stature? Is it that?" He's like, "He is just an ox. You cannot move him. He is like the strongest human being you will ever come across. His technique is always perfect." And he said, I've only ever seen like one point where he hasn't like set up properly. He was, I lined up against him where he wasn't proper. And he's like, and you still can't move him. So it's like, yeah, he's just phenomenal. I just think he's so impressive. And you'd kind of hope that voters might look at that of, if you have to game plan for someone or you can't game plan for them because you know they're going to beat you in that way anyway, that's pretty impressive.
So the last point, last segment that we're going to have here on the podcast today is, look, I'm very well aware that a lot of the players that are going to be playing in this South Africa Ireland match are not going to be in the Munster Stormers match. I
Mm.
understand that. But at the same time, November 29th, Athletes Lounge broadcast is going to be on FloRugby. It's going to be between the top two teams in the URC. They're tied at the top, Munster Stormers.
Mm.
Obviously, I just talked about the Stormers winning it all. Well, Munster has had equally an impressive URC season so far. I think Munster could very easily win the Champions Cup too. They're going to play each other. It's going to be on the Athletes Lounge. That is going to be a week after this match between South Africa and Ireland. So, how much could that South Africa Ireland match really carry over? Maybe not from players in the field, but just vibe wise. Like how much will those teams want to play each other and be motivated to beat each other based on what happens in this national game?
See, I don't think it's too tied to that. I just think these two teams have a massive rivalry anyway, Joe. It's really interesting when you think about, Stormers won season one, Munster beat them in the final in Cape Town in season two. Every time they play, it's just like a ding dong battle. They go at each other. It'll be a really interesting match. I think it's just going to be, I think from a fan's perspective, it'll probably carry over where you've got the Irish, South African. And actually, ironically, I think as a, as a Munster fan, I think it'll be really interesting because Munster fans aren't necessarily as engaged with Ireland as anymore, or not at the moment, because just a lack of representation. It's such a Leinster heavy team at the minute that actually we might put quite a bit more value into this one of beating a South African team ourselves. It's going to be really interesting. I've been really impressed with Yuri Mattia, the Stormers fly half, who's played when Sasha's not been there. He's been on fire. And I think for Munster, it's a bit of a bigger step down not having Craig Casey and Jack Crowley and Tyg Byrne than it really is for the Stormers not having Sasha and Damien, just because they've got quite a bit of quality across the board. But it's going to be a cracker at Thomond Park. And for anyone who's not been to Thomond Park, it's unlike any ground in the world. And I know everybody has their favourite ground. There's something special about Thomond on a big night. It's kind of, if you don't believe in spirits or whatever, you might when you go there.
Right now, is this the only, like, we can say this is a rivalry for a South African club and a European club right now? Like, when I think like the Hollywood Bet Sharks, should they have a rivalry outside of the South Africa teams in the URC? Do the Bulls really have a rivalry against anyone
Leinster and the
outside
Bulls.
Leinster? Okay.
Yeah, well, when you just think about what the Bulls knocked them out twice, right, in two semi-finals, and then Leinster obviously smacked them last year in the final. So there's a bit of rivalry there. But other than that, no, I think Glasgow Munster is the most, including everybody, other than Leinster and Munster. For Munster, Glasgow are the team they hate the most. So there's some. That's what makes the URC so incredible is you are starting to develop these rivalries when you think about it, and it's such a unique product, but. The South Africans have brought so much to this competition. Make no mistake about that. And I can only see the rivalries going one way. So yeah, we need to
You're,
get the Sharks. Must feel left out. They can fight Connacht or Ulster if they want.
well, you're going to be on the Athletes Lounge broadcast, which will be great because for people that don't know, we've already explained this. Philip explained this earlier, but for people that don't know, like Philip lived in Cape Town and he's from Ireland. He is a Munster fan. His second team, though, you have told me this, is the Stormers.
Love the
Those are the
Stormers.
teams. So we have the Philip Benden Bowl this weekend, and then we've got the Philip Benden Club Bowl the next weekend. So it's going to be
Yeah.
really exciting just to watch like Philip's face when the Stormers go up on there. So
Yeah. My wife finds me unbearable when these matches come around, so I'm gonna have to be very quiet and hide away.
all right, let me pull up the list, and we're going to end this as we always do with our picks. So I said that that was the last segment. Well, this is actually the last segment. So let me pull it up here. We're gonna let's see, we're gonna do some matches here. First, 6 a.m. Saturday, 6 a.m. Central Time, 7 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm so used because we're based in Austin, Texas here to do Central Time, but okay. 7 a.m. Eastern Time on Flow Rugby, Georgia versus Japan. Philip, who do you have?
I'm going to go with the home team. I'm going to go with Georgia here. Japan have showed a lot, and actually, Japan might go there and play a bit better because they've played better quality opposition. But I back Georgia to do it and send a statement out that we should have been in the Nations Series.
Yeah, I'm going with Japan here. I laid it out. They need to prove that they were willing and are worthy of joining the Nation Series. And again, they've played so many good clubs. And not to say anything about the teams that Georgia has played, but like, look, I mean, they played South Africa a few weeks ago. I mean, it didn't come out well, but like, uh,
Yeah, yeah.
they played some tough teams. Um, all right. We've got some other the matches: Portugal, Canada, Romania, Uruguay, Spain, Fiji. I'm liking Fiji in that match.
Definitely.
We don't
Yeah,
have to
I
pick all
think.
those matches, but those are the other tier matches that we
Yeah,
have.
I think you go Canada, Uruguay, Fiji are my three picks in those. Yeah,
All right, here we go. Saturday, November 22nd, 10:10 Eastern Time. Can Wales do it? Can they knock off the All Blacks? If they do, does Scott Robertson even fly back with the All Blacks?
if Wales beat the All Blacks, Scott Robertson should move to Alaska and never ever watch an All Blacks match again. No, the All Blacks by 50. Yeah, sorry Wales.
All
You got
right.
them at the worst time, Wales. You don't want an All Blacks team off a loss.
All right. Italy 3:10 that same day. They're playing Chile. I think Italy is going to win that game rather handedly.
50 points too. Yeah, I reckon. Chile have been
All
good
right.
this year. Been really good this year, but yeah, not in the class of Italy.
Okay. Same time in Paris. Interesting matchup here.
Mm.
All right. Joe Schmidt's final game, I believe, as the
Hmm.
Australia coach is going to be against France. This will be France's probably their last international match they're going to play without Antoine Dupont until the Six
Hmm.
Nations. We believe he's coming back in December. I picking France to probably win this based on how I've seen Australia play. I picked Australia to win last weekend, and it didn't happen. But yeah, I'm picking France.
Yeah, yeah. I think I picked Ireland by about 15 last week. I just felt the wheels have come off for the Wallabies. They're too tired. There's too many injuries. France is just going to overwhelm them in the pack. Again, I've not been impressed with France this block. I think France have taken a major step back compared to what I thought coming into this block. Anton Dupont fixes a lot of issues, but if you're relying on one player, are you a truly great side? No, you're not. They've got quality across the board, and Ramos, Peno, Leo Bielbiere, all these names roll off. Charles Olivon and Greg Aldrit made a big difference coming back this week. So I think France are going to put the hurt on the Wallabies. I'm afraid to say. I think it'll be a 20+ point win for France.
On Sunday, Scotland plays Tonga at 8:40 a.m. Eastern
Mhm.
Time. Uh,
Scotland, yeah.
Scotland's probably going to win that one, I would say.
Yeah, doesn't change how bad their November's been, unfortunately for them. Yeah.
Right. I think that we'll end it with the two best matches. I think on the weekend, I think that Georgia Japan is going to be an absolutely phenomenal match. I'm not saying that
Mhm.
just because it's on Flow Rugby and the Flow Sports app. I think that it just lacks name power that these other two lack or have, I should say. Um, Sunday, 11:10, England versus Argentina. These two teams will be at full strength. They were not at full strength when England beat them in the summer. Philip, I'll let you go first. Who are you picking that match?
Yeah, I think England keep rolling. I kind of gone back and forth on this. I wouldn't be surprised if Argentina win it, but just because England has such a strong record against Los Pumas, they're playing really great rugby. I think you saw the full array of what Steve Borthwick wants this team to be. He's gone back to type of being a kick first team, but being able to play when they do have possession. Some of those tries, those strike plays were phenomenal. I think England win, and I actually think England win relatively handily at the moment. Kind of going against what I said earlier in the pod, but I think England win pretty comfortably at Twickenham.
It's
How
going
about
to be
you, Jeff?
Twickenham. It's going to be Twickenham. There's going to be a lot of chanting going on, a lot of singing
Hmm.
in that match. Now, Argentina has played in this stadium. They played the Springboks there a couple months ago in the Rugby Championship. But yeah, I think England's winning this. I think England's going to. Here's my hot take. All right, here's a hot take. I don't know how hot it is. I think England's winning the Six Nations this year,
Yeah.
and I think that they win this game. They roll on into the Six Nations in a couple months.
Yeah, no, I think so. And we touched on the topic of teams peaking too early. This England team's got a long way to go. They can get a lot better. I do have concerns that maybe they are hitting heights a bit early, but you never know. But yeah, I think England win, and I think yeah they'll be a real threat in the
They're,
Six Nations. Unfortunately, we're all going to have to deal with them now. Thank you very much, New Zealand. Yeah.
I mean, look, England has a lot of veterans. I'm not saying that they're all young, but man, they've got some really impressive young
Mm,
players on
they
this
do.
club,
They
which
do.
this country. So that's why I think that they're going to win the Six Nations, and I think they're the biggest threat in 2 years at the World Cup to to South Africa. I would have loved to see them play South Africa this month. Obviously, they didn't. Um, Okay, speaking of South Africa, we go back to Saturday, 12:40 p.m. Eastern Time, the Avia Stadium in Dublin. We have Ireland, who this is probably the lowest ranked they've been in years, right? I mean, they're what, fourth now?
Yeah, fourth
Um,
because of the way the points work. Yeah, with England's win over New Zealand. Yeah.
they host the Springboks. Philip, who do you have?
Yeah, so I'm not to drag on too long. I'm gonna make a case for both teams. Look, my head says South Africa for sure, and they deserve to be favourites. You know, they've been the best team in the world this year and best team in the world for the last 5 years, really. I think if Ireland are going to beat South Africa, the way they're going to beat them is not aerially. Ireland have some very good athletes in the air, but South Africa have better athletes in the air. The way Ireland have beaten South Africa traditionally over the last sort of five, you look at the 5 matches. Ireland have won four, South Africa have won one. The way Ireland play is almost like a rugby league style game where you have a ball carrier, and it could be a forward or a back, whoever's taking the first ball, and they have three options. They have out the back, inside, or outside, and that's what they did to Australia all day. They targeted sort of the 12 and 13 channel, and then they had lots of options, and that's how they scored most of their tries. If they can go into the heart of the South African blitz defence and get sort of those soft shoulders get moving, then I can see a route for Ireland to win this. Now, it's very difficult. You've got to be 100% clinical. You have to nail those passes. And you have to be brave to go into that blitz defence. I would say South Africa have more ways to beat Ireland than Ireland have to beat South Africa, and that sways it for me that I think South Africa will win this one. My heart says Ireland because I do think it would be a real boost for Ireland going into the Six Nations. I Yeah, I'm going to go against all the logic. I'm just going to back Ireland by two because it's what I'd like to happen. But I think the box will win it. But yeah, I'm going to say Ireland by two, even just for the sake of it.
So
Why not?
I think we've not talked about this with Ireland, but I think I'm gonna bring it up. Okay,
Mm.
so like Ireland has had South Africa's number, right? We've addressed that, but this isn't the same Ireland team because I think one thing they might be missing is guys like Peter O'Mahony, guys
Yeah,
that
true.
play with a certain attitude that aren't going to be intimidated that they're playing South Africa, guys that go into this match that think and believe in their hearts and hearts that they're way better than the Springboks. I don't know if that has been part of the up and down nature of Ireland, but like we saw Peter O'Mahony step up to the Haka last year, and of course that was a bad decision by Peter because they got beat by the All Blacks when he did that. But I feel like that's probably a guy that you would want against the Springboks. This is the guy that brings the attitude, the piss and vinegar to the game. Do you think that that's probably what they could be missing? And my pick is I think that Ireland stuns them. I think Ireland beats the All Blacks here, or not the All Blacks, the Springboks here to end
Right.
the season. To I think that they come out and the Springboks have proven they're the best team. I don't know what the lineup is going to look like, but I think Ireland and Dublin they're going to pick up one of their massive wins this month, and it's going to be here against the Springboks. But I'm interested in that point. Do you think that the
Yeah.
Ireland could be missing the attitude?
Firstly, you've really surprised me because I thought after picking the Wallabies to beat Ireland, I thought you were going to double down and definitely go for the Springboks. So Ireland's biggest loss at the moment is Joe McCarthy, who's out injured. He is so central to everything Ireland does. He's our biggest ball carrier. He's phenomenal. We have another young player called Edwin Adogbo, who's a brilliant, brilliant young second row, who's very similar. He's also injured. So we're missing our two biggest players there. In terms of the Peter O'Mahony comment, you're never going to replicate a generational. And for Ireland, he was a generational player, right? International fans might feel differently. You're right. You need that sort of dog in the pack. Ryan Baird's really impressed me with his attitude on that. The only thing is he's kind of Is he as nasty as Peter O'Mahony? He might well be. He's getting close to it, and he's a big, big boy. He's 6'6", 6'7", 125 kilos. So he's a lot bigger than Pete was. Yeah, Pete was a generational. You don't replace players like Sexton, O'Mahony, Murray, those kind of guys very often. And Sexton obviously is a big loss. So yeah, I think you're right on that point that we might be missing that. I've been very impressed with Caelan Doris's leadership. I think he's really grown into the role. Dan Sheehan's a freak. The only thing I would say is I do think Ireland probably have less of a hang up with the Springboks than they do with the All Blacks, if that makes sense. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I agree. My head says to me South Africa should win this, but yeah, I can see a world in both teams. I'm just going to go Ireland by 2 because I was so impressed with them against the Wallabies, and I know it's the Wallabies, but there was a lot of things. Mac Hansen was the best I've ever seen him, and he makes such a difference. So
Best
yeah,
Australian player on the field.
best Aussie player. The funny thing with the Aussies claiming him is his parents are Irish. He was, but anyway, well, we've got him now, guys. So good luck to you. You guys enjoy being 12th in the world or whatever you
Yeah.
are now.
The thing I just the thing I just look at it is like Peter O'Mahony was a vibe, right? Like
Yeah, you're
you
right.
just did not mess with that guy, and he just did
Yeah,
not care.
yeah,
And I feel like that's the type. If you're going to beat a team as good as this team, you need someone
yeah,
that will just do the dirty work and be the jerk that nobody wants to mess with. Reminds me a lot of like when Bill Lambier and Rick Mahorn left the Pistons in the early '90s. They weren't as feared, and that's what I'm kind of looking at Ireland is like guys that just do not care who they're playing and they're going to play in the physical. They're not even afraid to pick up a yellow or red card in
yeah.
there.
Yeah, no, you're right. Pete's a big loss. So, and whereas you look at the box, conversely, you've got Eben who's willing to do that. Go ahead. They're everywhere. And what's made this rivalry so interesting and so fierce in recent years, and I'd love to hear any South Africans, just let us know in the comments if you agree with this point or what you think. But Ireland were nowhere really for quite some time. We've only kind of become a rugby force in the last sort of 15 years, really, internationally. So and I think that's added a bit of fire. And obviously, the South African teams coming to the URC, there's so much cross pollination between the two countries. Half of the South African coaching ticket are Irish. Jerry Flannery's there, Felix Jones is there, their chief analyst. I'm so sorry, I've forgotten his name. He's Irish. And then you look in Ireland, we've got Jacques Nienaber coaching these Leinster players. Erge Snyman plays at Leinster, and he should still be at Munster. Make no mistake, he should still be there. Sean Klein's at Munster, and he's likely to start this week. So that there's a bit of extra niggle, and those boys don't want to be going back to the provinces having lost to Ireland again. So it'll be.
Well,
I can't wait for it. I
I'll,
really
I'll
can't
end
wait.
it like this: if Ox was playing in this game, I would
Yeah.
have picked the Springboks.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. Then I think it would be very hard for Ireland to get a foothold in at scrum time. But yeah, no, it's gonna be good. I'm glad. I love being in agreement with you. The only thing is, I
There
hope
we
you haven't
go.
put a mucker on us having picked the Wallabies and then we beat them heavily. Could you just pick the Springboks? It's
Look, I was going more. I'm a narrative guy, right? I'm an
yeah,
old newspaper guy, and I just felt like it was Joe Schmidt's former team. He really built that program. I just thought they would play really
yeah.
well in there. But sometimes it's not about the X's and O's. It's about the Jimmy and the Joes, and I think that's what we learned in Australia and Ireland.
I agree, Joe. I
Now
agree.
the
Yeah,
difference this week is, uh, you know, Ireland has got some Jimmies and the Joes to compete with the Springboks.
yeah. No, I agree. I agree. I think all logic says South Africa, but I'm still going Ireland. The only time I'll be illogical is when Ireland are playing. So there we go.
All right, so that'll do it. Rugby fans, top 14 action is on this weekend on FloRugby. Do not miss it. There are some pretty good games, especially on Friday. Toulouse and Poe play each other. And then we've got that Georgia Japan match Saturday morning. Do not miss it. And then, of course, this time next week, we're going to be talking about the return of the URC. They come back for 1 week, and we're even closer to the Investec
Okay.
Champions Cup and the BCR Challenge Cup. Can't wait. Philip, as always, nice talking rugby with you.
Thanks, Joe. Really enjoyed it.